Today we're talking with Filip Smeets, who's the general manager of Hydrogenics. Hydrogenics is a power-to-gas hydrogen energy conversion technology. It's very exciting, but in my experience in the industry, it's not always that well understood. So I'm happy to have you here today, and welcome, and thanks for taking a few minutes to talk with us. So if you could just very briefly explain a little bit about Hydrogenics and what you're trying to do with this technology.
So Hydrogenics is a company which has its focus on zero-emission hydrogen technology, and we basically have two platforms, two core platforms that we're developing. One is water electrolysis technology, where we are the only company in the world who has both the alkaline mature technology as well as the rapidly developing PEM technology for water electrolysis. And then the other platform is for our fuel cells, based on PEM technology also. And then around that there is some, let's say, ancillary technology that we're also developing for novel applications such as hydrogen refueling stations that are popping up in certain places of the world recently.
Well, storage is certainly, a really important story in clean energy and the smart grid. So, just one of the very general applications might be taking excess wind, right, and converting it into hydrogen and injecting it into the existing gas grid, right? So the infrastructure is already built.
Yeah.
For one thing. So I don't know, I know you do a lot of other things as you just described, but one way that might help for us to understand the technologies even more is for you to describe some of the projects that you're doing in Europe. I know you have a couple of things going on, Copenhagen and Germany, and Can you tell us a little about that?
So maybe I could briefly explain power to gas. The concept of it, basically what you're doing there is you're taking renewable electrons, electricity, preferably excess electricity, and you convert that into renewable chemistry in the form of hydrogen gas, which is the smallest form of gas that you can find around the globe. That gas you can then use in other energy needing sectors that are also in need of decarbonization over the next decades. So it's really the only way how you can convert solar and wind power into sectors such as mobility, chemistry, the industry, the heating sector, etc.
Right. So, one of the first things that really excited me about your technology was just the idea of clean generation, clean gas generation, for example, with peaking plants, being able to even run that more cleanly. So it's almost like a full circle, circle implementation. I just think it's really clever. And so what are you doing in Copenhagen with your technology?
So Copenhagen is a very interesting large megawatt scale demonstration project that we are doing with a larger consortium of players, under which Electrogea, who is a small technology company focusing on biomethanation, as well as Audi, who is interested mainly in the output, the green methane, which they are able to sell to their customers. So what we are doing there in Copenhagen is we're at the city's wastewater treatment facility. We will build a 1 megawatt electrolyzer coupled to a bioreactor that will basically convert the green hydrogen that you will produce locally from excess wind power and the CO2 that is still present in the raw biogas. We will bubble those two streams of gas, the raw biogas and the green hydrogen, through a bioreactor which contains a monoculture of organisms that convert those to input feedstocks into renewable methane, which can then be injected into the gas distribution network of the city of Copenhagen.
That's amazing. How big can we get when you start talking about scale? How, maybe it's a little hard to characterize, but just in general, when we're talking about this kind of storage modality, how big can we get?
It will be the opportunity. Let me phrase it that way. The opportunity will be incredibly big, because basically, if you look at projections up to 2050 for Europe, then we will have enormous quantities of excess wind and solar energy that cannot be integrated into the energy mix, because first of all, the mismatch between demand and supply. And secondly, it's electricity, and you need it into in a chemical form. So that amount is almost close to the total generation capacity of electricity in Europe at that time.
So that's not insignificant.
That is not insignificant, and that's basically the opportunity, because the marginal cost of that electricity is close to zero. So the only thing you need is technology and a infrastructure to bring it to other energy, clean energy needing sectors such as mobility, etc.
Well, in our last moment here, before we finish up, what should utilities be doing right now with regards to your technology? What should they be thinking about? What should they be talking to you about?
I think what is very important for the utilities is to look at the opportunity and not at the problem. The problem is currently and will increase over the next years, the flexibility of the electricity grid with increasing share of intermittent renewables. So you need to use a number of options to improve the flexibility of the system. One of that is energy storage. That can be done, that's not a problem, but the larger opportunity lies towards beyond 2020, towards 2030, where we will see a growing amount of wind and solar energy that will need to be shedded if we don't have power to gas infrastructures deployed in the various regions of Europe. And that's an enormous opportunity, because there you can really develop at that level, at the grid scale level, a smart grid, because with power to gas you basically provide a interconnector to connect the electricity grid with the gas grid, with the transportation network, with the industry, and that is something that doesn't exist today, and that gives you the possibility to build a new infrastructure based on low fossil technology, but you will build that infrastructure because you have now a storage solution at average capacities and not at peak capacities like we had to do last century with the electricity grid. You needed to build it for peak demand and not for average demand.
All right, well, thank you so much. And so power to gas is something we need to be looking at when we want to think about truly integrating our resources and becoming a truly smart grid. So, Filip, thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.